get a chance maybe to just take stock, bigger picture about this start to the season with the Idaho State win in the mix there, what continues to impress you the most about this team and how they've come together so early?
I think the thing that impresses me the most is just sort of the level of consistency. I think we've been extremely consistent, probably since the second half of the first game. I think we've played two halves where we would say I didn't really like what we saw in those two halves, but generally speaking, and even with that, you still have seen signs of, in both those circumstances, of them sort of exhibiting the knowledge and belief that we know what we're doing. We'll get back to it. We did it to beat Denver in the last two possessions of the game. Might not have liked how we played in the second half, but we were able to do that in those last two possessions. So for as young as we are, that consistency, and I think it's been a good blend of the young guys with the old guys. And the other thing is, I think all 8 guys that have seen significant minutes, they've all played well. That they're playing because they're playing well. They're making contributions. They're not playing because, well, I got to put somebody in the game. I'm putting them all in the game because when they go in, they play well for the most part. They've had their times, all of them, when they haven't played well, but they figure that out, and I think they're all just helping each other in that regard. I mean, even after in one of the games, twice I've said, hey, you guys know you can play better, so make yourselves play better. And they sort of know what goes into that, and that's what I've been most impressed about, and I think usually that's what leads to consistency. And when you get that consistency, then you can really work on how do you make yourself do what you ultimately are trying to do, which is win, and we've been able to have success in that area as well.
And you've talked about the new experiences that obviously the younger guys are taking part in with the in-season tournaments and the road trips and everything. Now they get a service academy game. What are you telling especially the younger guys about what this game means to you guys in your program?
Well, I mean, I think I've said numerous times, it seems as though we get a lot of sort of new experiences all the time. And here's another new one just in terms of, in some respects, a big game because it's a rivalry, and that we should have a good crowd. It should be a good atmosphere. I mean, I think a lot of that is the rivalry, but we're 6-1, so a lot of it is because of how we've been playing and what we've been doing. And now, like I've said to them, to be good, being good's hard because when you're good, people want to see what you do next. They want to keep watching you. A lot of people and groups shy away from it, and because you got to perform. You got to perform over and over again. There's a certain mentality, there's a certain drive that goes into that, and that's the separator in being good and not being good. And here's an opportunity for us, right pretty early to sort of grab that opportunity and say, okay, well, we know what this is about and we know what it entails, and we're gonna seize that opportunity. And that's what I'm looking forward to seeing from our guys. But obviously, we're going to approach it like we got a game. We're going to approach it like we approached the last 7 games. And it's a home game, and we got to be good on our home court. We've done a pretty good job of that so far, and we have to continue to do it.
What sticks out to you on film when you watch Army?
Well, I just know I've played against them. I know they play. It's going to be a very physical game. It's going to be a very hard game. They like to play sort of up-tempo, shoot the ball quickly. So it will be a sort of, in that regard, a little bit of styles. But the physicality standpoint, I know they're going to come in here saying, okay, we got to try to beat them up. And we've gone through that already. I've been saying that to our guys in all these other games, that's what the game's about, 40 minutes of that. And this could be our biggest test, in that area up to this point.
Last thing from me, you've talked before about how Lucas and Nick are kind of like a unit. How do they complement each other? What strengths do each of them have that lead you to play one guy at one time and one at another?
Well, I mean, they're not similar at all, which I think in this area is very positive. And I just think because of that, in a weird way, they complement each other. They do something to the other team where offensively and defensively, 20 minutes it's like this, the other 20 minutes it's like that. They produce in their own ways, and that production, as they do it in their own ways, has just led to sort of, we got like a 10-point a game, 7.5 rebound, 2.5 assist, guy playing that position. So historically, together, they are a good Air Force center, our kind of center. Individually, I don't know so much. So again, it's almost like our whole team. That those guys are embodying sort of our whole team right now, because I think Jeff Mills and Camden Vanderswag do the same thing for our other perimeter players when they come in. They just sort of balance them out and free them up in certain ways, and they really sort of complement each other. And, like anything, I think any coach is just, working to develop that kind of chemistry between their players, and these guys have sort of latched on to it pretty early.
AJ was Player of the Week for the Mountain West. Ethan, Freshman of the Week. Is that surprising, and just thoughts on that at all?
Well, it's not surprising, just because if you look at AJ's last 4 games, they're absolutely, one, from my standpoint, just playing well whenever he's out there, not pressing anything. To get 27, 21, 27, 19, and as a coach say, he didn't really take one bad shot. He didn't force one thing. That's pretty good. Playing within and with his teammates and knowing sort of that role that he has, and I think there's been a growth there and sort of the freedom within that, from him, he knows from me, but it's with the other players. So he's played really well, and when you do that and get the right results, that's when something like, that's when recognition comes. If you score those points but you don't get the right result, you don't get recognized, and I think that's the message. It's always been the message. When the team does well, individual recognition comes. If the team doesn't do well, you find out that nobody really cares, and it's just nice that, again, for new roles, new team, new sort of playing together, to get sort of both those things early on, because, I'd like to think that'll make it keep going in that direction.
And in 4 games in 8 days, did you notice the guys tired after Saturday? And if not, I know it's a hard line to cross of like, hey, you want to keep this going, but at the same time you want to give them rest. How do you kind of operate that this week?
Yeah, I did. I sort of noticed the tired in the second half on the Wednesday game. And maybe that could have been more not tired, but let down, oh, we're doing well. I didn't see that Saturday. I saw a second half where we played extremely well and hard. But I do know that after that game was over, a little bit of a sigh in that locker room from the players, just in terms of, okay, now we get to take a day off. Now we get to take another day off tomorrow. Again, with a young team, sometimes it's better to just keep playing. If you just keep playing, you stay in that rhythm, so that's something, as a coach, you're always looking to try to find something to worry about. That's one of my things right now is, do we use those days off? Do they use those days off mentally and physically the right way? But no matter what, to your question, we needed it, to play 7 games in 16 days and 4 and 8. There's no question we needed yesterday and we need tomorrow, and I'm hopeful that puts us in the right mental and physical mindset for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to get ready for a good team.
Final one for me is, you said on Saturday, the guys starting to know their roles so early in the season. Is that unique that it's this early and hey, Lucas is going to do this, Nick's going to do that, AJ's going to do that, Jake's going to do that? I feel like that's more established maybe halfway through the season, but so early on you guys have that right now.
Yeah, it is. It seems early, but I think we started this last April, when soon as whatever they call that last season was. We started right away. I started right away with the returners. Okay, this is how it's going to be. This is how we're going to do things. I was already talking about the freshmen who were going to be coming in. So it was all done in a way where I think every one of those guys, and I revisit it over and over, I just want to make sure that everybody's clear about what we're doing. And I think through that, and then when they all got together after basic training was over and we just played every day, and that's what we did. We just played. I didn't really play, get to know each other, play together, play. That's what we do here. The upperclassmen they saw the freshmen, and they were playing with them, and I think they could start to see, okay. And then because of that, I think there's been an embracing of it. Nick Jackson's done a really good job of saying, wow, Lucas can help me individually, and he obviously can help the team. AJ, to a greater extent, to have me say, hey, I'm giving the ball to Ethan Taylor as a senior, for him to respond the way he says the world about AJ and his approach to what we're doing. But I do think it had a lot to do with, he played every day with Ethan. It's like, I can see why Coach might not be sick and crazy and sick in the head. He might have a little idea what he's doing here. But his embracing of that, you never know how that's going to go. But real early, it's shown that, wow, this is a good thing. Those two guys do work well together. Then you throw in a Heidebreder with those two guys, and I just think it's worked out because they've played a lot together in a short amount of time. If you go to August 10th to the start of the season, they played a lot together, and that's why we did it. And I think we're reaping the benefits of that, and I think we're fortunate, but a lot of it has to do with them and their mental approach and their embracing of it, because I've said to them, there's no accepting of roles here. It's called you embrace your role, and then when you do, you then make yourself be an all-star at your role. When you just accept roles, you find yourself not doing that well with them. And that's the way I approached it with them, and they've done a really good job with that.
Coach, do you believe in learning how to win games? Yes. You've won two different ways this past week. What does that say about the guys, and what does that do for the team going forward?
Well, I think if you look at all 7 of the games, you go to the 6, we won at Tulsa in a very similar way to we won at DU. Similar meaning the end. Totally different in terms we had to fight back against Tulsa, stay in the game, but then those last 2 possessions we had to execute and stop them, and we did in the road. DU, we were up big, and then they come back, so we have to deal with things aren't going so well, but then you have to execute and finish the game defensively, and we did it there. So those are big things when you can do that on both sides of the coin there and be successful. And I think most importantly, our guys know why they were successful. They executed. They won the game in both those instances. I think we had a hard-fought game against Texas Southern where we were down at half. First home game, stayed with it. Learned the value early on in, say, game 3 of just staying with it at home. And we were able to win that game. So we've had a lot of different experiences in 7 games, being on the road, being neutral, being home, playing different opponents, whether it's Texas Southern being so old, and experienced in an NCAA team, Tulsa just being a good basketball team who beat Oregon State and I think somebody else right after that. They won 2 games in a row right after that. So we've had a lot of different experiences, and any time you have those and you can be successful, I think that, that makes a team grow up quicker, makes them become mature quicker, and obviously confidence level-wise, belief-wise, I think they're exhibiting that in the team and in themselves individually.
When they faced adversity, do you think a lot of that is just from playing together in the summer and knowing each other so well?
And I also think it is that, and knowing their roles and knowing why we're doing what we're doing, and then most importantly, you can have all the plans you want that way, but we all know, the best teacher is having that plan and then having the plan work out sort of the way that you planned it. And they've seen that. So again, I think that's where confidence comes from, is the experience of doing it. There's nothing like doing it, being in adverse circumstances, fighting through it, doing it together, and then ultimately having a positive outcome. And we've been fortunate with that. And, hopefully we can continue to have good fortune, but oftentimes you create your good fortune by sort of your behaviors and your actions. And, I'm pretty happy with our guys' behavior and their stick-to-itiveness and their persistence here through the first 7 games.
Is there another side of you where you kind of wish you'd have more blowout wins to maybe give some guys down the bench some more minutes?
I mean, every coach wishes for blowout wins, but it's almost like the days of that in college basketball they're gone. You know, I mean, every game always goes to the end. You know, you've seen these comebacks like you can't believe through the years. We're like, geez, how can the team come back from, in 2 minutes down that much? But because of that, I've made a commitment to those other guys, and we're going to go do it again today where, we are coaching, say, numbers. Well, we coach them all hard, but, numbers, 9 through 17, whoever's about, we're coaching them hard. We're giving them opportunities. We're practicing in a way where they know I'm real and serious and sincere and saying, we got to develop you guys. We really believe there's, another 7, 8 players there. And it's our job as coaches to make sure they know that and then go practice in a way where they know it, they don't think it because they're the ones doing it at practice. And that's going to have to be the way that we do it. And then you see as a coach sort of like who pokes their head out, you know what I mean? Who sticks their head out and says, hey, coach, I'm coming along. But you got to practice that way. And, having a little bit of time here before, 5 or 6 days, we're gonna do that. Last week on the days right after the games, those days were for those guys to bring them along. And again, I think that's what makes a team. Right now I don't think it's a team of 8. We got a team of that. They know it's a team of, whatever that number is, and they're all in it and we're all in it together. And I'm just hopeful that we can get one of these guys to develop. But it's not a 1-year plan. When I talk about these other freshmen, it's not 1 year, you know what I mean? We've had guys here that didn't play their freshman and sophomore years when we were good the first time, and they made contributions as juniors. It's having that stick-to-itiveness, the ability to persevere and stay with it, but then that's my job as a coach to provide an environment where they can really believe in those values and make themselves stick with it. And if they do, we're going to develop some more guys out of this class.
You mentioned more rest this week because of all the time that you have off. Can you kind of take me through what the schedule looks like for you guys this week? Are you going to be practicing them a little bit lighter because you're off to such a good start? And would it be different if you guys were 4-3 or 3-4?
Glad I don't have to think about that second part of the question. But I do think, and again, we are young. We got to maintain and grow and get these guys stronger as we go through the year. So that's something I'm going to have to be cognizant of no matter what, with Ethan, with Lucas, with all these guys. So this week, we were off yesterday, go today. But today, those guys who've been playing a lot, they'll go hard, but for a shorter amount of time. Tomorrow we'll be off. I think Wednesday I'm going to try to do it similar to today. And then we'll have 2 real hard days of, real preparation for the game on Saturday. And, even throughout leading up to this point, we've tried with, all the freshmen, how do we have a schedule where they can get in the weight room a little bit more, get in there for a touch more. So how do we feed him a little bit more so Lucas gains weight and strength as we go through this season? Because we all know, here for them as freshmen, that's a big challenge. But I think we've been on that from the beginning of practice, and, we're working hard to try to make sure as we play game after game or 4 games in 8 days that we don't lose sight of that, because in the long run, that's got to be something that we're good at, because I think that's going to be the thing that helps us when we get in the league.
The position switch with AJ, it doesn't seem particularly consequential from the outside. It's just the guy bringing the ball up, because then everybody rotates around. So I guess why did you feel the need to make that move, and then how has that impacted AJ?
Well, I think it's like anything. Guys have certain skill sets. Guys bring certain things to the table, and depending on who they're playing with, that's the beauty of basketball. Like the beauty of who are you playing with, what are their strengths, what do I bring out in you, and the good teams, that's what they do. And I just had a sense, and, I was fortunate, that we coached AJ for a year, so I could make that decision based upon coaching him and watching him play. I just felt that his ability to score is obviously apparent. But what's important to me, since they're keeping score, is the points that you score have to matter. The points that you put up have to be substantial to your team. Every losing team has a leading scorer. it doesn't matter. Who cares if you're getting 15 a game, but they don't mean anything. So that was a driving force for me, just watching him play, saying, how can I help him as a coach? In order to do that, you have to have other players who can help sort of put that plan into place. And Ethan's just a good compliment to him. He has a point guard's mentality. I think what was positive the other day, I got Ethan out of the game for a little bit, which he needed some rest. And because AJ wasn't the one with the ball all the time, all of a sudden AJ had the ball more, and you saw like a burst of speed, and he went full court right down the gut and, got a layup. And, when you put the burden of, say, running the team and having to bring it all ball up the court all the time on a guy like AJ, I think it wears him out in these other areas. And that's where these guys have been able to help each other. And you throw a guy like Heidebreder in there who can really pass the ball and who makes shots, and it's just lightening the load in these other areas so that the strengths come out more than obviously the weaknesses. And that was the driving force behind it. And to your point, there really isn't much difference. It's just sort of, what's your job? What's your main job? What's the main part of your role? And Ethan's is to make sure that he's running the team, and besides doing all the other things he does, he stuffs the stat sheet. But what that does is puts AJ in a position where mentally, I think, AJ knows sort of already early what I'm looking for from him, and how to go out there and play and produce the way he has, but do it within the context of what we're doing. And, you're always shooting for that, but he's done a really good job, and they've done a good job of playing together that way.
And I know Ethan was already on board before you guys came in, but did you have to fend anybody off while he was at the prep school?
No, Ethan's high school coach used to come here when I was here the first time and work my camp. That's how Ethan came here. The whole thing is his name's Dave Lay, his high school coach, and he came here and worked my camp, and he's done all this stuff, and that's how Ethan played in high school. And so there's a little bit of that connection, which obviously helps. And then what helps is just, it's a great way for him to play. I really think, one thing I got to stress to him is he's got to get stronger. But as you see Ethan grow with what we do, you're going to see an offensive game that sort of develops within the context of, being quote-unquote a point guard. But he has some offensive ability there that I don't think has shown up yet that's going to. A lot of it is just sort of a physical strength element of playing in the games and learning, okay, this is how guys are going to guard me, because they're going to guard him that way, and they're going to start to come after him. And but once he experiences that, he's going to have the counters and have things that, okay, well, see how you're going to figure out guarding me this way. And that's the beauty of a guy like Ethan, when you got some size and you have some unselfishness to you, and you can see the court, and you're a good passer. You can play. You present a lot of different things that opponents have to try to prepare for.
And then with Army coming up this week, is Navy at all on your radar, trying to get them on the schedule? Because I know it's been a long time.
I don't think we've played Navy since I was here the last time. I think that was the last time Navy played us was in 03, 04. Yeah, so we're talking to them. I don't want to go back east and play them both at the same time. I'd like to get them on the schedule where one's home, one's away every year. How do you do that? We'll have to figure that out. Because if, let's just say next year we wanted to try to do it, well, if we want to continue with Army, that means we're going to go to their place. Then Navy would have to say, okay, we'll start at your place. So there's got to be a meeting of the minds there, but we're definitely talking to each other to try to see if we can get to where we do play each other, on a fairly consistent basis.
Wouldn't it help attendance and everything else,
Yeah.
to get one of those?
I think it's good. Obviously, and it's good to have that every year. It's good from a scheduling standpoint, whether it's, playing, the service academies every year, any rivalry you can have, if you can have that on your schedule every year, that's just good from a scheduling standpoint. You don't have to sit there and say, well, who are we going to get? Coming in every year, okay, we got this at home. If we can get another good home game with that, wow, those are two pretty good games to present to your home fans to say, hey, we got a good home schedule. So I think that is a big part of it, and hopefully we'll see that on Saturday. Hopefully we'll see a really good college basketball environment. I know it'll be great for our players with the start that we've had to sort of have that kind of recognition this early on to say, hey, you get a good crowd, and it is a big game. And so I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully that's the type of environment we have.
All right, from your perspective, from the team's perspective, how have you been able to get off to such a good start?
I think we've had just a focus that's been a lot different than we've had in the last couple of years, at least from what I've seen personally. Just from the second the buzzer went off last season, all throughout the offseason and the preseason, we've had a different level of focus and drive that we're not satisfied with how we've been doing the last couple of years. We want something different. I think we've put that onto our work ethic and onto the court this year. And
how much have you imparted that to the younger guys, the freshmen?
As much as I can, whenever I can. Whether we're just up on the hill, just hanging out, and on the court in the team room. Everything is all about like what can we do to win? What can we do to be better than what we were last year, or even the year before, or the week before, or the day before? Just constantly trying to put that into their minds. We're not just out here to play. We're out here to have fun by doing as best as we can.
How are you better as a player this year as opposed to last? I know it's early, but given what you worked on over the summer and stuff, how are you a better player today than maybe you were last year?
I think I just kind of put more focus on how can I help my teammates rather than how can I help myself. So over the summer specifically, it wasn't like how can I get better at doing this or that. It's what do I have to think about to get this guy open? How can I set a better screen to get a back door, or maybe the next pass after that's going to be open. I just think the more I focus on helping my teammates and allowing them to score, or getting a good pass, or getting a shot up, or playing better defense, it's helped the rest of the team get better and just makes it easier for myself and the rest of everybody else.
Coach Scott has talked about how well you and Lucas complement each other, how your strengths are maybe not his strengths. So certain times you're called upon, certain times he is. I'm curious about practice, though. Do you beat up on him pretty good when you guys go up against each other in practice?
Oh yeah, of course. That's kind of both of our competitive natures. When we're in practice, we're going against each other. I'm going to try my best to go as hard as I possibly can, nonstop, and of course he's trying to beat me out as well. So I'm using my strengths to try to attack his weaknesses, and he's using his strengths to attack my weaknesses, and it kind of helps each other. Where I might be lacking, he brings me up, and where he's lacking, I help bring him up as well.
Because of everything last year, you guys didn't play Army. How much are you looking for? Have you had this date circled on your calendar when the schedule came out?
I wouldn't say it's necessarily circled, but we've been thinking about it. We have some guys on the team last year who obviously didn't get to play against them last year. And then with the Army week we had with football and the rest of the sports here at the academy a couple weeks ago, we've been antsy to get our chip at them.
Coach said on Saturday after the win, you guys are starting to know your roles really, really well. What has made that happen so early in the season, do you think?
I think it's just how close we've been to each other. We're all friends, obviously, on the team. We all love each other, and we all want each other to succeed. And so, in doing that, we know what each person's good at and what they can excel at. And so, if I know a guy's good at shooting, I'm gonna look when I catch the ball. Oh, where's the shooter? I'm gonna find him. Things like that. And everyone's doing that for everybody else. It's just being so close and being able to play with each other as much as we have in this short amount of time. We've allowed each other to see what we were good at and push those roles to the forefront.
Getting off to your best start in recent memory, is that attributed to what you just talked about there, as well as what does that do for your confidence moving forward this year in terms of saying, hey, we can compete with anybody?
Oh, definitely. When we're more team focused, as I think we definitely have been as of recently, it allows the team to shine rather than just a couple of guys. And when that happens, we still have guys shining. Like we just had Ethan Taylor and AJ Walker being the freshman of the week and player of the week for Mountain West. So just focusing on the team allows individual players to show out. We just keep playing better and better. And as for how we've been doing, it gives us a lot of confidence going into the season. And it's great to see that have a better record than we have in recent memory, but we also know like that's not the end goal. So it gives us a little bit of an edge knowing that, okay, we can win, and now let's go out and let's continue to do that as the games get harder and harder.
Nick, you mentioned winning, and you've won different ways, especially even this last week. How much do you think that'll help when you get into Mountain West Conference play?
I think the the types of wins we've had, both being able to hold a lead, coming back from a deficit, winning in a tough environment. I think that's prepared us a lot for the upcoming games. As conference starts to come up, we have a lot of younger guys, which means they might not be the most experienced, but this is great experience for them. We played games almost back to back with just a day in between. It's going to be how it is during the conference season. So the way we played our games this early in the season has prepared us a lot for how it's going to be later down the line, and I think we're showing that we can get prepared for it.
Not sure if you can answer this, but do you lead the team in dunks?
That's a little bit of a discussion a couple guys have on in practice sometimes. Oh, do you have a dunk more than me? And I don't think anyone really knows the numbers for sure. A couple people might say they have like 5 more dunks than they might have. I might be a victim of that as well, but it's a little bit competitive for dunks in the team, but it's nothing too serious.
I know Ethan has had some good ones.
Oh yes, definitely. Yeah.
Who's the best dunker on the team?
Best dunker? Oh, well, I mean, Ethan's dunk looked the best on the film. We had the guys in the background jumping up in the slow-mo. I think that was the best video so far, but in terms of best dunker, I think Joe has a lot of potential. He's bouncy when he chooses to get up there.
Can you take me through the schedule that you have to have personally when you are playing 4 games in 8 days? How much you have to balance hoops, but school as well, and then compare it to what you're facing now this week, considering you just have a game next weekend.
It's a lot of it goes back to, and I keep harping back to it, like our mentality in the preseason. It's just been do all your schoolwork and all of your out of basketball stuff. Get that as good to go as early as possible. So when it gets to stuff like this, where you have a lot of games and your mentality kind of has to be on basketball, you don't really have to be worrying about that stuff as much as you would be if like you were behind on school or something like that. So we're just staying ahead on every aspect, so that if something has to take the forefront, we don't have to like fall in any other aspect. So we're able to stay prepared and stay ready for it.
Coach Scott talks a lot about embracing roles, no matter what they are. How have you embraced it? I mean, obviously you're still playing minutes, but to have that starter spot taken away, did that hurt your pride? And how have you gotten over it?
It wasn't that big of a deal. Obviously, you think for maybe like 30 seconds about it at the beginning and in the first game, but at least me personally. But after that, I just embrace the role and see, oh, well, our team's doing really well this year. Maybe me coming off the bench, I see what I'm doing differently this year and how that's different than last year. I might not be starting, but am I able to supply a little fire, a little spark off the bench, a little bit into the game? And I think I've been able to do that pretty well. And the same thing for a lot of other guys who might be a little bit older and would ideally like a starting spot, but however they can contribute to the team as much as possible and still be able to win, I personally take that over anything else.
Yeah, and what's the mood like around the team? Because when you play 8 players, and strictly 8 players, the other guys who have to accept their role as not getting on the floor, how do you guys stay cohesive and everybody stay upbeat and being able to contribute when they're not playing?
That's honestly a testament to the guys that you're talking about. The guys who might not get in the game as much as we do play about 8 people a game. We kind of emphasize how valuable they are to the team. They might not be getting in the game, but they're the ones that we're going against in practice a lot of the times. That's getting us ready for these games, and getting us ready for games, they're also being prepared as well, so that if the call does happen, they are ready. So we kind of kept that mentality of, hey, like, we may need you, and so like keep working as hard as you possibly can, be ready. And I think all these guys are ready, and they continue to push us, get us ready, and get themselves ready as well.
You've been around this program for a little while now. When you look at Ethan Taylor and his all-around game, like, is he about as good a player as you've played with here or seen here? And what is his limit?
Oh, he's definitely been an amazing addition to our team. From the beginning, when the freshmen came, we were already always with the idea that we're looking for young guys to come and help us. And we would never guess we have a guy who would got Mountain West Player of the Week 2 weeks in a row like he has. He's been playing out of his mind. So like, we're super proud and over the moon with how he's played, and a lot of the other freshmen as well. They've come in and embraced the roles, see how they can help the fastest way possible, and really done it.
And are you and Lucas friends off the floor?
Lucas is probably my best friend, at least of the younger guys on the team. Me and him always hanging out. I'm always talking to him. He's always trying to pick my brain. I'm always trying to lift him up, help him as much as possible. We are really good friends.